So before we get into the general strategies and individual sections, let's take a minute and talk about the background, the structure, and the scoring of the ACT. Although the ACT is only one part of an overall admissions process, it's still an important one. Students who apply to colleges have gone to different schools, they've taken different classes, they've participated in different activities, they've gotten different recommendations. Yet nearly all schools require students to face down a standardized test like the ACT. It gives them a way to compare students who otherwise might be very, very different. And the ACT is closely aligned with the average American high school curriculum. In fact, it was invented in 1959 as an alternative to the sneaky trick questions of the SAT. Back then, it stood for the American College Testing Program, but now it's just the ACT. That's right, the letters don't stand for anything anymore. So why is it important to know who writes the ACT? Well, knowing a little bit about the test writers and their agenda can help you figure out the best way to prepare for the test. Now, the writers of the ACT claim that since it covers the stuff that you studied in school, the only thing you have to do to prepare for it is to take challenging courses. But have you ever heard of a test that you didn't have to study for? And of course not. So why would the writers of the test claim that you don't have to study? All right, think about it this way. What would happen if everyone in one of your classes got 100% on a test? Well, your teacher would say, "Great job! I taught well, you studied well, it's awesome." Now, what would happen if everyone got 100% on the ACT? Well, ACT would flip out, and that's because the ACT is an admissions test, or more specifically, a rejection test. Its job is to sort people into two piles, those who do well on the ACT and those who don't. So that's why it's vital that we figure out how to work smarter and max out our scores. All right, let's take a look at this test. The ACT consists of 4 tests. Let's look at each of them. First up is the English test. You'll have 75 multiple choice questions to do in 45 minutes. Those 75 questions will be spread out over 5 passages. The English test is scored from 1 to 36. So after the English section is the math section. In the math section, there are 60 questions, and you have 60 minutes. And it, too, is scored from 1 to 36. Next up is the reading. For the reading, you'll have 40 multiple-choice questions to answer in 35 minutes. The 40 questions are spread out over 4 passages. The reading is also scored from 1 to 36. Next up is the science test. Science test has 40 questions, and you have 35 minutes to complete them. Those 40 questions are spread out over 7 passages. And, like everything else, it's scored from 1 to 36. Finally comes the writing test. The writing test contains 1 essay that you have 30 minutes to complete. It's optional in the sense that schools may not require that you take it. Your essay will be graded on a scale from 1 to 6 by 2 graders, whose scores are then added together to give you an overall grade between 2 and 12. Finally, your scores from your 4 multiple choice sections are averaged together to give you a composite score, also from 1 to 36. Your essay score does not count into your composite score. Several times a year, the ACT contains an experimental section. Now, this can be any of the other 4 multiple choice sections and will be clearly labeled as experimental. It doesn't count towards your score, so don't worry about it. Okay, we've seen what the pieces are. So how are we supposed to approach the ACT? Let's take a look at some general strategies.